It was 1976 in Greenleaf, Indiana. There was reports of locals. The people of Greenleaf, Indiana, were reporting to the local sheriff that there was an intruder who only seemed he was never seen or caught, but all of the evidence that he'd been there would show up every Sunday morning. At some point. And he was known as Pete the Purple Perpetrator. Now, Pete the Purple Perpetrator would go in to people's houses in Greenleaf, Indiana, back in 1976. Greenleaf is in between Green Tea and Timbuktu, by the way, Indiana. And he would go in. He would wear a purple turtleneck sweater, purple gloves, purple shoes, purple pants, purple beanie, and he would paint his whole face purple. And hence, Pete the Purple Perpetrator. And what would happen is he would sneak into people's houses every Saturday morning between the hours of midnight and daylight. Sunrise, and he would go into women's dresser drawers and pull out their panties, and he would sniff the crotch of their panties. So, and he'd just neatly place them back in, shut, and he'd quietly exit the residence. So when ladies of Greenleaf, Indiana would wake up Sunday morning and go into their undie drawer and they'd see some purple smudges on the crotch of their panties, they knew Pete has been there. So it got, after a while, this was going on and on. It seemed to happen only during spring and summer, and then it would die down through fall and winter, and then the trend would start going back up. So people figured maybe it was a guy from out of town who would come in and do this. And it got to the point where, there was a big news conference and the sheriff was there and everything. And it was starting to make Pete the Purple Perpetrator was starting to make the headlines, and so it was real. The media was just soaking up the gravy of it. They loved it, and it was in the papers almost daily. Well, not daily, but weekly. Every time it happened, Pete hits a house next to the lake. Pete hits the house on the hill. Mrs. Grady woke up Sunday morning and there were some smudges on her grandma undies. And so they had a big press conference, and people were getting a little edgy and they were getting a little pushy at the press conference, and the sheriff was up at the podium, and it's like he swore up and down. He said that night, he goes, "I will." He looked right in people's eyes and said, "I will catch Pete. Pete will be caught. Give us some time. We have an investigation team." So the very next weekend, the sheriff's wife woke up Sunday morning, and there were some purple smudges on the sheriff's wife's crotch of her panties. And no one ever heard of, saw, or experienced anything to do with Pete ever again. He just vanished. 1976, Greenleaf, Indiana. Pete the Purple Perpetrator.